Hello everyone and welcome back to Paperworkintel, where we make filling out forms and applications easy for everyone. Raheem on the mic and I'm your host. Today we're talking about two forms you fill every time you begin a new job: the federal and provincial personal tax credits return, better known as TD1s. These are the forms your employer uses to figure out how much federal and provincial income tax to take off your paycheck or your income. We covered all that in part 1 of this topic. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you check that out first. The link should be on the screen. In this video, we'll go online, we'll download the forms, and fill them out together. So let's go. Vámonos amigos, vámonos. So let's go online and download the forms. Please open up your internet browser and do a search for TD1. The first result is TD1 2019, perfect. And I can see right here is from a Government of Canada's website. So I'll go ahead and click on that. Let's scroll down. And as usual, we have two options: a regular PDF and a fillable PDF. So I'll click on the fillable PDF. And bingo, that's the form we need. I'll go ahead and download this to my hard drive by I'll mouse over to the top and click right here to download and save. Now remember, we need two forms, one for federal and the other one for provincial. Let's go back and get the provincial. So I'll go back. All right, I'm in Ontario, so I'll do a search for TD1 Ontario. If you're in a different province, then obviously use your province. And scroll down. Same thing, we have a regular PDF and a fillable PDF. I'll click on the fillable PDF, mouse over to the top, and download this to my hard drive as well. Save. So go ahead and open up the federal form you just downloaded. Now, first thing I like to do is make sure I have the form for the correct year. And right here I can see it's 2019. Perfect. Here's a tip for you guys. Any deduction that reduces your taxable income and therefore the amount of tax you have to pay is referred to as a non-refundable tax credit. You'll soon see how some of these credits impact your income. Begin by filling out your personal information, your last name, your first name, date of birth, employee number if you have one, your address, postal code. Here I have my social insurance number. Now you'll notice I skipped this field. That's because I live in Canada and I work in Canada. This is for non-residents. We'll talk a bit more about that later. Now, coming down to the form, as you can see, we have 12 credits you can claim on this form. Number 1 being the basic personal amount. And if you scroll down, the last one is the amounts transferred from a dependent, number 12. Basic personal amount. This amount is set every year by the government based on things like inflation and other variables. What does this amount really mean? So let's say you make $50,000 a year. The federal government is saying, yo, because we are too nice and we got your back, you can keep $12,069 before paying any tax, which means your taxable income now goes from $50,000 to $37,931. Now, for the sake of time, we don't need to go through every line. Each deduction is explained. All you guys have to do is read, identify what applies to you, and put in the amounts you'd like to claim on the right hand side. So let's just do one for example. Let's say, let's choose number 5. Let's say you paid $800 in tuition to, say, Sheridan College. All right, so we'll come down here and put in 800. And that brings our total in line 13, since we're not claiming anything else, to $12,869. All right, so before we go forward, let's go back to line 5, tuition. Now, before you try to claim any amounts for tuition, make sure the school you attended or you're attending is certified by ESDC. All right, so make sure you read, and if you have any questions, ask. Don't assume. A couple of these deductions require you to do some basic math. There's some calculating you need to do using a worksheet, and that worksheet has already been created for you by the CRA. Anytime you see this on the Form TD1 WS, that's exactly what it is. All right, I'll highlight that as well. How do you get that worksheet? Well, let's go back online and just do a search for TD1WS. And bingo, here we go. So click on that and scroll down, and you have two versions of the worksheet, the regular PDF and the fillable PDF. Let's see what it looks like. So that's what the worksheet looks like. If you're trying to claim a deduction and it makes reference to this worksheet, then by all means go online, download the worksheet, plug in the numbers, and use it to arrive at the correct amount to claim. Let's go back to our form. All right, so let's keep it moving. And now we can go on to page 2, filling out Form TD1. Fill out this form only if any of the following apply to you. Well, we already covered this in part 1 of this video, the reasons why you may need to fill out a TD1, so you guys can read all this. Let's keep it moving. Make sure you sign, date, and give this form to your employer. We know by now you should fill out a new TD1 every time you begin a new job. Let's say for whatever reason, when you were getting hired, this document was missed. By default, your employer is going to use the basic personal amount as your deduction. In some situations, it's not going to be a problem. If there were deductions you were entitled to, all that can still happen when you file your income tax. Where this can turn around and bite your daddy ear is when you double dip, so claim the same deduction twice. That's going to shortchange the amount of tax you pay, and as a result, you may end up owing Canada Revenue when you file. More than one employer at a time, we already covered that. Total income less than total claim amount. So in line 13, we have $12,869. Let's say for the entire year of 2019, your income is, say, $11,500, which is less than the amount in line 13. In that case, you'll go ahead and check this box. What happens then is, because your income is already too low, then you wouldn't be taxed. Non-residents. You could be Canadian and living in a different country outside Canada. Now, we all pay taxes on income we receive from sources within Canada. Unless 90% or more of your entire income qualifies as taxable income in Canada, you should not claim any deductions. Just go right to line 13 and put in 0. Provincial or territorial personal tax credits returned. So basically what you guys need to know here is, if the amount you have in line 13 is more than the basic personal amount, then you have to fill out a provincial TD1. In other words, if you're claiming any other deductions besides line 1, the basic personal amount, you have to fill out a provincial TD1. If you're only claiming line 1, then you don't have to fill out a provincial TD1, except in Quebec. In Quebec, it doesn't matter because, Quebec is special. You always have to fill out a provincial form for Quebec. Their form is not called a TD1, it's different. Now, in a case where you don't have to fill out a provincial TD1, your employer will use the basic personal amount for your province as your deduction. So that's basically the gist of this whole paragraph. Coming down, deduction for living in a prescribed zone. Like I mentioned in part 1 of this video, there are deductions you can claim for living in one of these places. Alright, so if you've lived in one of these places for more than 6 months. So once again guys, make sure you read, I'll highlight that, more than 6 months. The information is down here, do the math and put in the correct amount in this box. Alright, so coming down, additional tax to be deducted. We covered this in part 1 as well. If you like your employer to take a little bit more tax from your paycheck, then you can do that on your TD1 form. So for example, if you like them to take, say, $25 more for tax from every paycheck, then you can go ahead and put that amount in here. Reduction in tax deductions. Basically, if you're entitled to claim other deductions not covered on this TD1 form, there's another form called T1213 you can use to make those claims. I already covered that form on this channel. If you'd like to see that video, I'll leave the link in the description. And finally, we have our certification, and you sign and you date. There you have it guys. That brings us to the end of this form. Let's now take a look at the Provincial TD1. So here we have the Provincial TD1. I'm in Ontario, so I'm using the TD1 for Ontario. When you open up your Provincial TD1, it should have the 2 letters for your province here. Once again guys, I've skipped this field because I live in Canada and I work in Canada, so it doesn't apply to me. Now, you'll notice some differences right away on the Provincial TD1. We have 9 credits that you can claim. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 9. Whereas on the federal form, we had 12 credits. And you'll notice the basic personal amount on the Provincial TD1 is a little bit lower than the federal. Now, one thing I'd like to point out right away is some of the deductions available on your federal TD1 are also available on your Provincial TD1. So please don't carry over the amounts you have on your federal to your provincial because the credit amounts may be different. The basic personal amount is set by the government on an annual basis, and everyone employed in Ontario, every pensioner residing in Ontario can claim this amount. Now, for the sake of time, we are not going to go through every single line, but it's the same drill guys. Go through all the deductions, identify which ones apply to you, and put in the correct amount you're allowed to claim on the right hand side. Let's go back, ON-WS. All right, and there we have it. All right, so coming down, we have the regular PDF and the fillable PDF. Let's click on this one. And that's what the Provincial Worksheet looks like. The worksheet is very basic. It's there to help you actually. It's very basic math. All right, so if you have any questions you feel I can help you out with, then you're free to send me an email. All right, so let's go back to our form. On the federal TD1, I claimed an amount for tuition. There is no tuition on this form. So, yep, no tuition on this form. All I'll be claiming is the basic personal amount. So I'm going to come down to line 10 and put in the basic personal amount, which is 10,582. All right, so let's go now to page 2. Let's keep it moving. So we already covered most of this stuff in part 1 of this video and when we talked about the federal TD1. That being said, I always encourage you guys to read. Make sure you read all the information. If you have any questions, then please ask. Right, so let's keep it moving. And finally, at the bottom, we have the certification where you certify the information you are providing is correct and complete, and you sign and date. And that's it, guys. We're done like Dunzo. Finito. What I'd like us to do now is take those numbers on the TD1 forms and calculate the federal and provincial income tax. That's really going to bring it home for you guys, help it sink in. So from now on, when you look at your wages, you should be able to figure out how much tax you'll be paying. For that, join me in the final part of this video. The link should be on the screen. See you there, and thanks for watching.